Welcome to Discover You Radio's Discussions. The full spectrum. The full spectrum. Discover You Radio's Discussions. The full spectrum is proudly sponsored by Counterpoint Publishing and is directed and produced under the guidance of Will Stenners.
Master the art of client care today. Grab your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. Available now on Amazon in paperback and Kindle.
This is the brief on Brandon Eagle's book, Your Guide to Customer Service. I'm Michaela Stevenson, and we're kicking off a new series breaking down the chapters of Brandon Eagle's book using the provided 9 source files. It's basically an unfiltered field guide from the front lines of the automotive service industry, exposing the massive gap between polished corporate training videos, which look like a perfectly staged movie set, and the chaotic, high-pressure reality of the service drive, which plays out way more like an unscripted live broadcast with everything catching on fire. So who's actually making the job so chaotic? Well, first, Eagle catalogs the really frustrating customer archetypes, like the early bird entitlement, the last-minute pickup, the coupon Nazis, and Mr. Best Friend until the invoice hits. We've all been one of these without realizing it, right? Now that we know who's causing the chaos, how do service workers actually deal with them without losing their minds? Second, instead of useless corporate fluff or fake smiles, Eagle gives advisors the actual language needed to accurately document reality and set clean, firm boundaries with these difficult folks, totally without any of the guilt. But hey, if the advisors are setting these boundaries on the front lines, who has their back when the customers push back? Finally, we see the service manager's reality. They aren't just corporate rule enforcers, they're the captains in the trenches fighting a grueling two-front war. Stepping into the absolute worst conversations to protect their advisors from angry customers, while also fighting behind closed doors to explain the messy reality to corporate executives. Ultimately, this book totally validates the unseen grind of service advisors and serves as a massive reality check for both entitled customers and out-of-touch corporate executives.
Stay tuned as Robert Simmons and Rita Fox go into a deep dive.
Imagine waking up, grabbing your morning coffee, and walking out to your pristine, custom-poured concrete driveway.
Oh, that sounds like a great morning.
Right. But then you look down, and there is just this massive, dark, permanent oil stain bleeding right into the cement.
Ugh, you would be absolutely furious.
Honestly, you should be. So you storm down to the dealership to demand answers. But here is the crazy part.
Yeah.
The person you were about to scream at today, the one who is going to beg you not to ruin their paycheck over this mess.
They never even touched your car.
Exactly. They didn't even touch it.
It's a completely wild scenario, but for the people working behind the service counter, it's just a regular Tuesday.
It really is. Well, welcome everyone to Discover You Radio's deep dive portion of the full spectrum.
We're so glad you're here.
Today, we are launching something truly special. We are kicking off part 1 of an exclusive multi-part breakdown series that is, honestly, going to completely change the way you look at an everyday, mundane experience.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're diving into the incredibly eye-opening book, Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition by Brandon Eagle.
We are just so excited for this series. This isn't just a book, it's a revelation.
Yeah.
But before we get into the really heavy-hitting content, it's really worth sharing how this book even came into existence.
Right, the origin story is fascinating.
It is. Eagle actually credits Frank Conrad Musumeci, who you might know as the author of the award-winning Events of an Ordinary Life.
Oh, sure, great book.
Right. So Musumeci essentially pushed Eagle to write this. He realized that these wild trench warfare stories from the automotive service lane, they absolutely needed to be told.
Yeah, the world needed to see what really happens behind that glass counter.
Exactly.
And the dedication of this book is just as powerful, I think. Eagle dedicates it to the service advisors who, smile through daily meltdowns.
Right, the ones who take the blame for things they didn't do.
Exactly, and who still manage to say thank you when they really just want to scream.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But importantly, he also dedicates it to you, the good customers.
Yes. The ones who realize that advisors aren't robots.
Right. They aren't magicians, and they certainly aren't punching bags.
Exactly. The ones who show up, listen, and, treat the human being across the counter with basic dignity. Because that's really the core premise we're exploring today.
Yeah.
This book is emphatically not a corporate-approved how to be nicer manual.
No, definitely not.
You won't find stock photos of people with perfect hair giving fake smiles while pointing at a clipboard. This is a gritty survival guide from the front lines.
Okay, let's unpack this because the epigraph of the book hits so hard.
It really does.
It points out that everyone demands good customer service, but how often do you stop and ask if you're behaving like a good customer?
Wow, yeah.
Right? Like, we are so quick to fill out a survey grading how an employee treated us, but we rarely step back and grade our own behavior during the interaction.
It's a brilliant framing, really.
Yeah.
And to truly understand why the service lane is so intensely stressful, both for you as a customer who just wants your car fixed and for the advisor trying to help you.
Right.
We first have to look at the massive, almost comical disconnect between what corporate executives think happens in a dealership and the messy, chaotic reality of the actual trenches.
The disconnect is staggering. I mean, the book details these corporate training videos that advisors are forced to watch.
Oh, those videos are something else.
They really are. Try to picture the scene they set up. You've got perfectly lit service drive, soft background music, absolutely zero phones ringing.
Right, no chaos at all.
Exactly. No printers are jamming. There are no tow trucks dropping off burning cars. Just a calm, well-rested advisor treating one single customer at a time as, quote, the most important person in the world.
It looks fantastic in a corporate conference room, doesn't it?
It looks like a spa.
Right. As Eagle points out, that fantasy dies instantly the second it hits a real Monday morning at 7:45 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
The author completely dismantles this corporate illusion. Let's look at the actual environment you walk into.
Set the scene for us.
Okay, so at any given moment, that advisor is dealing with 3 wildly impatient customers in the waiting area who just want to leave because they're already late for work.
Naturally.
Simultaneously, 2 different phone lines are blinking red on their desk.
And wait, don't forget the tow truck out front.
Right. A tow truck is actively pulling up outside, blocking the entrance with a completely dead vehicle that needs to be processed.
It's nonstop.
And on top of all of that, a master technician is standing right behind the advisor, holding a greasy clipboard with a half-torn down engine.
Oh, wow.
And they need an immediate answer so they don't lose billable time on the lift.
Yeah.
All of this is happening in the exact same minute.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If I am the customer and I am paying $150 an hour for labor, or, I just dropped 50 grand on a new vehicle, shouldn't I expect to be greeted instantly?
Well, sure.
I mean, why is corporate wrong to demand a warm welcome? That's just business 101, isn't it?
It is a totally fair expectation if you are walking into a controlled environment.
Okay.
But that's the whole point of Eagle's book.
Yep.
Service lane is not a controlled environment.
Right.
Corporate executives build their models based on a luxury retail experience, but a service drive operates much more like a hospital emergency room.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the book uses fantastic analogy here.
Yes, I love this analogy.
Corporate's demand is that the advisor must make instant eye contact with anyone who walks through the door and treat them with undivided attention.
Right.
It is exactly like expecting a battlefield triage nurse to act like a luxury hotel concierge while the entire hospital is actively on fire.
Yes, exactly. It
Look
makes
here.
no sense.
If you walk into a luxury hotel, yes, the concierge should drop everything, smile, and offer you a warm towel.
Of course.
But in a triage unit, the nurse has to prioritize the bleeding patient, the ringing radios, the doctors needing immediate answers.
They have to do actual triage.
Right. Corporate's golden rule of treating every single person as the most important simultaneously is literally physically impossible. You cannot have 5 number 1 priorities at the exact same second.
And this specific disconnect leads to corporate's absolute biggest misunderstanding of the service lane.
Which is?
It's the myth of the available advisor, or what corporate calls the empty desk.
Oh, man. You know this feeling as a customer. You walk into a business, you see an employee sitting at a desk, staring at a computer screen with no one standing in front of them.
Yep.
And your immediate thought is, great, they aren't doing anything. They're completely available to help me right this second.
But the author breaks down the invisible workload that makes that assumption entirely false.
That huge workload.
Huge. When no customer is physically standing in front of them, those advisors aren't just browsing the internet or daydreaming.
Right, they aren't playing solitaire.
No. They're deep into high-stakes administrative work. They might be finalizing repair orders or ROs.
Let's pause and explain that, because an RO sounds like just a receipt, but it is way more complicated.
Oh, much more complicated. An RO is essentially a binding legal document.
Wow.
The advisor has to document every safety recommendation perfectly, so a waiting customer's file is legally accurate before they drive away.
That sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. If they miss documenting a worn brake pad and that customer gets into an accident, the dealership is liable.
That is terrifying.
So they are typing up these massive, detailed legal files, or they are prepping to cash out someone who has been waiting in the lounge for an hour.
Or, and this is the really stressful one, they are navigating warranty claims. The book highlights how incredibly complex this is.
It is practically its own language.
Really?
Yeah. When a part fails under warranty, the advisor can't just type, fix the water pump and call it a day.
Right, that would be too easy.
They have to research specific labor operations, hunt down exact alphanumeric failure codes, and ensure the documentation tells a flawless story of a manufacturer defect.
Because if they don't, there are massive financial consequences.
Exactly. If they make a single mistake on a warranty claim, like literally one wrong digit in a failure code, the claim gets denied by the manufacturer.
Oh, wow.
The manufacturer refuses to pay, and the dealership outright eats a $3,000 repair bill.
Jeez.
So when that advisor is staring intently at their screen, it requires immense, uninterrupted focus so the business doesn't hemorrhage money.
Wait, so if they're forced by corporate to drop everything the second someone walks in, what happens to that complicated warranty claim they were just in the middle of?
Well, that brings us to the eye contact trap.
Okay, tell me about that.
Corporate training hammers this idea. Always look up and make eye contact the second someone walks through the glass doors.
Right, it's polite.
But Eagle explains the psychological trigger of eye contact. The exact microsecond an advisor locks eyes with you as a walk-in, you, the customer, believe the transaction has officially begun.
Naturally. We've been socially conditioned our entire lives to react that way. If someone makes eye contact in a retail setting, it means, I am ready for you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You walk straight up to the desk expecting their full, undivided attention. But by forcing the advisor to make that eye contact and initiate the interaction, corporate is forcing them to abandon that highly sensitive, critical, behind-the-scenes work.
Right.
So the $3,000 warranty claim gets paused mid-sentence.
The customer who has been waiting an hour to pay is delayed even further.
Yes. The technician holding the torn-down engine doesn't get their answer.
It's a massive domino effect of delays.
It really is.
And all to satisfy a corporate mandate of saying hello immediately. It feels like there has to be a better way to handle the traffic flow without sabotaging the actual work.
There is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author presents a remarkably simple solution.
Oh.
It's a solution that corporate flat out refuses to fund: a dedicated greeter.
Just one person.
Just one person.
That's it.
Someone whose sole exclusive job is to stand at the entrance, notice who walks in, make that crucial eye contact, assess the situation, and make small talk.
That makes so much sense.
Their job is to keep people informed and calm. Hi, welcome. Bob will be right with you. He's just finishing up some paperwork. That's it.
Wow.
If you have a greeter, customers feel seen immediately, and the advisors don't get yanked out of deep, complex work every 30 seconds.
So what does this all mean? It means that because corporate offices want to save a few bucks and absolutely refuse to pay a greeter's salary, they expect the service advisor to literally split their brain into pieces.
That is exactly what they expect.
They're demanding the advisor act as a charming greeter, an accurate service writer, a fast cashier, a meticulous quality control inspector, a rapid-fire phone operator, a detail-oriented warranty clerk, and, let's be honest, an emotional therapist for angry people.
Right, all at the exact same time.
All at the same time.
And here is the brutal reality. Because no human being can flawlessly execute 7 different jobs simultaneously under intense pressure, mistakes are inevitable.
Absolutely. Delays are inevitable.
So how does corporate manage this inevitable failure that they themselves set up?
Yeah, how do they handle it?
Since they won't provide the greeter to manage the chaos, they rely on an enforcement tool. A tool specifically designed to punish the advisor for not being superhuman. They weaponize the Customer Satisfaction Index, or CSI.
CSI. Wow, those 3 letters strike pure terror into the heart of anyone working in automotive service.
Oh, they definitely do.
We have all seen this. If you have ever taken your car in, you've received that survey email asking you to rate your experience on a scale of 1 to 10 or maybe 1 to 5 stars.
Right.
What you probably don't realize is the intense financial coercion tied directly to your answers.
The author lays bare just how punitive this system is. Corporate uses CSI as a blunt instrument because they can't easily measure true quality.
Like whether an advisor was accurate or empathetic.
Exactly. But they can measure a survey score. So they tie a massive chunk of a service advisor's income directly to getting perfect scores in a fundamentally imperfect world.
That is just so unfair.
We aren't talking about a small gift card bonus here. Depending on the pay structure, an advisor can lose up to $10,000 or more a year if their scores drop below an arbitrary corporate threshold.
$10,000.
Say a 95% average.
Wait, let's break that down. As a customer, I might give a 4 out of 5 stars because, hey, nobody's perfect, right?
Or you think you're giving a good score.
Maybe the waiting room coffee was a little cold, so I give a 4.
And that innocent 4 out of 5 just cost your advisor a huge chunk of their rent money.
Wow.
Because an 80% score drags down a 95% average incredibly fast. It's a rigged game.
It really is.
One single bad survey doesn't just lower an average slightly, it entirely contaminates a sea of good ones.
That's crazy.
Corporate doesn't look at the nuance. Anything less than a perfect score is considered a total failure.
Which leads to the most agonizing part of the job, the unfair blame game. Let's go back to that scenario I mentioned right at the start.
The driveway.
Yeah, the book gives this brilliantly frustrating example. A technician working in the back shop accidentally leaves an oil drain plug a little loose.
Okay.
The customer takes the car home, parks it, and wakes up to find a massive permanent oil stain on their beautiful, expensive concrete driveway.
It's a total nightmare for the customer. I mean, they are rightfully furious. Their property is damaged.
Completely justified anger. But who takes the hit for it?
Not the technician.
No, not the technician who turned the wrench. The service advisor.
Yep.
The advisor who never even touched the car, who has likely never even met the technician working on it, depending on the size of the shop, is the one forced to absorb the absolute brunt of that customer's rage.
It's wild. They have to smile, apologize profusely, coordinate the fix for the driveway.
Right.
And then the most humiliating part.
Yeah.
They have to beg that furious customer not to destroy their paycheck on the CSI survey over a mistake they didn't even make.
That is just awful.
The unspoken script the advisor is forced to follow is essentially, I am so incredibly sorry someone else ruined your driveway, but if you don't give me a perfect 10 out of 10 on this survey, I won't be able to feed my kids this month.
It's holding their livelihood hostage.
Exactly. And this raises an important question, one that Eagle poses directly to those corporate executives in the book. What happens if the advisors finally say, enough?
Oh, that's a fascinating hypothetical, because the whole system relies on them just taking the abuse.
Exactly. The author explores what a quiet revolt might look like.
What would that even be?
Well, what if advisors simply refuse to be the emotional shock absorbers for broken systems?
Okay.
What if there was an actual organized strike where advisors across multiple brands refused to play the CSI game?
That would be massive.
What if they collectively demanded that their pay plans stop hinging on an angry survey about something entirely out of their control?
Wow.
It's a stark warning that corporate operations currently rely entirely on the compliance of deeply exhausted people.
And standing right in the middle of this powder keg is the service manager.
Oh, yes. We really need to talk about them.
Because the book gives them so much overdue credit, their role sounds truly impossible. They are fighting a brutal war on two distinct fronts.
That's the perfect way to describe it.
On one side, they're out in the service lane, stepping in front of screaming customers to protect their advisors, absorbing the absolute worst verbal abuse.
Right.
And on the other side, behind closed doors, they're getting on conference calls with corporate executives.
Yep. Trying to explain that the policies handed down from the ivory tower are fundamentally foolish and completely detached from reality.
Good luck with that, right?
Eagle makes a phenomenal suggestion here for those executives, actually.
Oh.
He argues that if corporate bosses or private dealership owners really want to improve customer service, they don't need another PowerPoint slide deck.
Definitely.
They don't need a new online training module. They need to come down from their quiet office and sit in an advisor's chair.
And not just for an hour, right?
No, not for a quick 2-hour photo op ride-along where everyone is on their best behavior and the managers have catered lunch.
Right.
They need to sit there for a full, exhausting month, open to close.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Dealing with the ringing phones, the walk-ins, the angry people waiting, the cars coming back broken, the coupon disputes, and the constant threat of bad surveys.
Only then would they realize how absurd their expectations are.
Exactly.
I would pay good money to watch a corporate executive try to navigate a 7:45 a.m. rush where 3 people are screaming about being late to work.
It would be a reality check of epic proportions.
It really would. But since that corporate system isn't changing anytime soon, the advisors are left to survive on their own.
Yeah, they just have to deal with it.
And because the pressure is so immense, their primary coping mechanism becomes incredibly sharp observation.
Right.
They survive by recognizing the predictable, repeating patterns of human behavior that walk through their sliding glass doors every single day.
And that transition is exactly what sets up the roadmap for the rest of this deep dive series.
Yes.
Eagle has categorized these repeating behaviors into distinct archetypes. He has given names to the customers that every advisor knows instantly the second they walk in.
Oh, I cannot wait to get into these. We're going to have so much fun unpacking these characters in our upcoming deep dives.
It could be great.
Listeners, get ready, because you are going to recognize people you know, and maybe, if we're being completely honest, you might even recognize a little bit of yourself in some of them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We're going to cover quite a few. Just to give you a taste, we have got the early bird entitlement.
Oh, boy.
This is the person who shows up an hour before their appointment and genuinely believes that physically arriving first magically overrides the entire shop schedule.
Oh, I know this person.
You've seen them.
They show up at 7 a.m. for a 9 a.m. appointment, tap their watch, and assume that because they physically occupied space in the building, the space-time continuum shifts. Yeah. And the 4 people who actually had 7 a.m. appointments just get pushed back. And they are genuinely offended when their car isn't pulled in immediately.
Right. And then you have the polar opposite, the last-minute pickup.
Oh, right.
The dealership closes at 6 p.m., the lights are off, the registers are closing down, the advisor is grabbing their coat.
Getting ready to go home.
Exactly. Then at 6:05, someone strolls through the door, totally unbothered, expecting a full, leisurely walkthrough of their invoice.
And they're absolutely shocked that the staff isn't thrilled to stick around.
Exactly.
We'll also dive into the couple scam. I loved reading about this one.
That one is hilarious.
This is the duo who clearly cannot communicate with each other at home, but the moment something goes wrong with their vehicle, they beautifully unite to blame the advisor for their own misunderstandings.
It is incredible to watch. Then there's the my mechanic said parts mule.
Ah, yes.
The one who demands you replace a specific expensive part because their buddy's cousin diagnosed the car over the phone based on a sound it was making.
Right, it sounded like a clunk clunk.
Yeah, exactly.
And my personal favorite, the garage expert.
Oh.
This is the customer whose slightly slanted home garage floor is somehow infinitely more accurate at measuring fluid levels than the shop's multi-$1,000 laser-leveled hydraulic lift.
We also can't forget the coupon Nazis who sit through an entire complex 10-minute checkout process and wait until the absolute final second to drop a massive discount bomb on the desk,
forcing the advisor to recalculate the entire invoice from scratch.
Yep, it's going to be incredible.
So how exactly are we going to break down these chapters as we go through this series?
Well, Eagle has structured each of these character studies brilliantly, and we're going to follow his lead.
Sound like a plan.
For each architect we discuss, we'll first look at the cinematic scenario.
Okay, what does that look like?
That's really painting the picture of exactly what it looks and feels like when this specific type of customer arrives. Then we decode the customer logic loop.
Right, trying to find the actual method in the madness. Like, why does the last-minute pickup think their behavior is totally fine?
Exactly. What wild mental gymnastics are happening in their head that makes this behavior seem perfectly reasonable to them?
That'll be fascinating.
From there, we pivot to the advisor reality check, which reveals the hidden chaos happening on the other side of the desk while the customer is making their demands.
And finally,
they outline the unwritten service desk etiquette rules.
I love these.
These are the blunt, honest truths that should realistically be printed in giant letters and stapled to the waiting room wall.
But never, ever will be.
Never.
It's going to be a masterclass in human psychology and patience.
Absolutely.
To wrap up our core mission for today's deep dive, the next time you are standing at a counter, whether it's a dealership, a hospital triage, or a hotel desk, we want you to realize something profound.
Yes.
The person on the other side of that desk is almost certainly absorbing the failures of a massive corporate system that they have absolutely zero control over.
They aren't the policymakers.
Exactly. They are the shock absorbers.
They're managing invisible workloads you can't see, fighting battles you don't know about, and doing it all under the constant looming threat of a survey that could ruin their month financially.
So be sure to tune in to our next deep dive as we officially tackle Chapter 1 and meet our very first customer archetype.
It's going to be incredibly eye-opening.
It really is.
And I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to chew on until next time.
Please do.
Think back to that epigraph we discussed at the very beginning. The next time you experience a slight inconvenience at a business and a manager hands you a customer satisfaction survey, stop and ask yourself, are you genuinely grading the human being standing in front of you? Or are you just grading the impossible, broken corporate system they're trapped inside?
That is a great point.
And more importantly, if the service lane is truly a mirror reflecting human behavior, what does your reaction to hearing the word no reveal about you?
Transform your business today. Pick up your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. Available on Amazon, paperback, and Kindle.
Stay tuned for Dakota Freeman and Lauren Miller as they get into an intense debate regarding the subject matter as they give two separate opinions helping to build this legendary legacy.
Master the art of client care today. Grab your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. Available now on Amazon in paperback and Kindle.
Welcome to The Debate. I am Dakota Freeman.
And I am Lauren Miller.
So imagine, if you will, watching one of those corporate training videos designed for automotive customer service.
Oh, the ones where everything is just, absolutely perfect.
Exactly. The moment you hit play, you are transported to this very specific, almost utopian alternate reality. The lighting in the service drive is pristine, the floors are spotless.
Right, zero oil stains anywhere.
None at all. There is this soft, ambient quiet in the air, which is only interrupted by the cheerful, welcoming chime of a single customer walking through the glass doors.
Yeah, and standing behind the counter is the service advisor, perfectly groomed, completely unbothered, with literally nothing else to do but smile warmly, make immediate eye contact, and recite the script. Welcome, I'll be right with you.
It is a beautifully sanitized vision of commerce. I mean, everything is orderly, predictable, and just entirely clean.
But then you step into an actual service lane at, say, 7:45 on a Monday morning, and that utopian vision just completely shatters against reality.
Oh, it really does.
You have 3 people glaring at you from the waiting room because they are going to be late for work. 2 phone lines are simultaneously flashing on hold. A tow truck is loudly dropping off a vehicle that smells distinctly like an electrical fire.
A very specific, awful smell.
Right? And a technician is standing at your desk demanding to know, right this very second, if they have authorization to tear down a hot engine block.
So today we are directing our discussion specifically toward the corporate executives, the regional managers, and the private owners who design these customer service protocols. The people who write the rules, but who frankly rarely spend their days down in the trenches of the service floor.
We are looking at the foundational arguments presented in Brandon Eagle's book, Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition.
And the core question we are tackling today is this. Do corporate training videos and customer service index surveys, what the industry calls the CSI system, do they represent a necessary framework for baseline accountability?
Or, on the flip side, do they function as disconnected mechanisms of financial abuse that essentially punish frontline advisors for systemic failures they cannot control?
I will be arguing that these corporate tools, while, yes, perhaps imperfect in their daily on-the-ground application, establish absolutely essential standardized baselines. I mean, when you are running a massive enterprise, you need measurable accountability.
And I will be arguing that these systems are fundamentally coercive. They operate on entirely fictional assumptions about how a service drive physically works, and they financially penalize frontline workers for a reality that executives just refuse to acknowledge.
To understand why these systems exist, I think we have to look at why standardizing service requires setting an ideal target in the first place.
Okay,
When corporate executives design a training video mandating immediate eye contact or requiring advisors to verbally acknowledge every single customer the second they walk in, they aren't just being arbitrary. They are deliberately engineering a psychological baseline.
Baseline that completely ignores the actual workload, but sure.
But look at the mechanics of the transaction. Automotive repair is a high-stakes, high-anxiety environment for the consumer. People are worried about their physical safety, the loss of their time, and obviously the very likely drain on their wallets.
Right, it's inherently stressful.
Exactly. So these strict protocols are designed to build immediate baseline trust. And furthermore, CSI surveys, as flawed as they might feel to the person standing on the ground, are realistically the only quantifiable method corporate has to measure quality control across hundreds of locations.
I hear that, but
Without the mathematics of CSI, executives have no systemic way to ensure the advisor is acting as an effective liaison between the customer and the technician. You simply have to measure the experience to manage it. The problem, though, is that you cannot manage a complex reality using a vacuum as your baseline. The corporate expectations outlined in those training videos are designed for an environment that literally does not exist.
it's an ideal target. You aim for the ideal.
But the source material illustrates this perfectly by deconstructing the myth of the free desk. An executive walks into a service drive, sees an advisor sitting at their station with no customer physically standing in front of them, and assumes, well, that advisor is free to instantly become a smiling greeter.
When in reality, they are usually swamped.
Exactly. In reality, that advisor is performing highly critical, unseen tasks. They might be finalizing complex repair orders so a waiting customer can finally leave. They are processing labyrinthine warranty claims that require exact alphanumeric failure codes,
Which are notoriously difficult to navigate. Right, and tasks that, if done incorrectly, will cause the manufacturer to reject the claim and cost the dealership thousands of dollars. The CSI targets demand absolute perfection in an inherently imperfect, chaotic environment.
But that chaos is exactly why
It essentially turns service advisors into what the industry calls bleem funnels, whose actual paychecks are held hostage by mistakes they didn't even make.
Okay, let's focus on those foundational tools corporate uses to shape behavior first, specifically the training videos. You framed the directive to make eye contact and say, "We'll be right with you," as this massive disruption to the advisor's hidden administrative work.
Because it is a disruption.
But consider the actual role of a service advisor. I like to think of them as the air traffic controllers of the dealership.
Ooh, that's an interesting comparison.
Right? An air traffic controller is staring at a radar screen, calculating trajectories, managing immense cognitive load, and dealing with a dozen planes at once. It is inherently chaotic. But standard operating procedures, specific, mandated phrases, and immediate acknowledgments are required precisely because the environment is chaotic.
Okay, but
Without the SOP, the system collapses into anarchy. A customer walking into a chaotic service lane needs that immediate visual and verbal anchor to feel that their multi-thousand-dollar investment is in professional hands. The mandate to look up isn't ignoring the advisor's workload. It's a structural requirement for keeping the customer calm so the advisor can eventually do the work.
I come at it from a different way. Notice what happens to that analogy when you actually apply it to the floor. An air traffic controller is absolutely managing a chaotic screen. But nobody's asking the air traffic controller to simultaneously pause their radar tracking, to serve drinks in the cabin, load the luggage, and explain the delay to an angry passenger at the gate.
Well, no, because those are different jobs.
Exactly. But in the service line, eye contact is not just a polite gesture. It functionally initiates a transaction. The second an advisor locks eyes with a walking customer, that customer genuinely believes the transaction has started. They march right up to the desk, expecting full undivided attention.
Which is what they should expect when dropping off a vehicle.
Except you are ignoring the mechanics of what the advisor was doing before they looked up. Let's say the advisor was in the middle of researching labor ops. For any executives listening who might be disconnected from the friction of the daily software, researching a labor operation code isn't just doing a quick internet search.
No, it's incredibly tedious.
It means navigating a maze of manufacturer databases, while holding 5 different diagnostic variables in your working memory just to find the exact 10-digit billing code to get a mechanic paid. If the advisor picks a code that is off by a single digit, the claim bounces.
Sure, the administrative burden is high.
So when the advisor has to pause that highly technical research to become a greeter, their cognitive load resets. The technician in the back who needs an answer stalls out. Billable time is lost. The 3 people in the waiting room wait longer. The phones roll to voicemail.
Okay, but ignoring the customer isn't the solution.
If corporate genuinely believes that a warm, immediate greeting is the most vital part of the intake process, the logistical solution is glaringly obvious. Hire a dedicated greeter.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Having a dedicated greeter is certainly a logistical adjustment a specific store could make, and I wouldn't argue against proper staffing. But adding a headcount doesn't invalidate the need for the advisor to have a standardized professional demeanor when the interaction eventually reaches them.
It absolutely invalidates the corporate assumption that one person can do it all simultaneously. Executives are forcing the advisor to act as the writer, the cashier, the quality control inspector, the phone operator, the warranty clerk, and honestly, the therapist.
Well, customer service does involve some hand-holding.
But when you force one person into all those roles, "we'll be right with you" stops being a comfort. It becomes a lie the advisor is forced to tell to keep up corporate appearances. Meanwhile, the line just gets longer and the customer's blood pressure rises because they realize they aren't actually being helped.
Yes, the environment absolutely becomes unpredictable. And yes, the standard operating procedures face incredible stress tests every single day. But since these procedures are tested most severely when the environment is unpredictable, we have to look at the specific, uncontrollable variables that break these sanitized timelines.
Which is usually the customers themselves.
Exactly. The friction you're talking about isn't just caused by corporate mandates, it's caused by human behavior. Right, the customers who don't fit into the neatly packaged training videos. Because those videos assume a perfectly compliant consumer who operates on a linear timeline. But look at the specific scenarios from the book that completely break the corporate mold. Take the late pickup.
Oh, the classic late pickup.
This is the customer who arrives 5 minutes after the dealership has officially closed. The heavy metal gates are coming down, the cash registers are counted, the computers are logging off. The customer walks in and is genuinely shocked that the advisor isn't absolutely thrilled to see them.
They expect that pristine training video experience, even after hours.
Or consider the coupon shoppers. These are the customers who wait until the entire repair order is finalized, the invoice is printed, the total is read aloud, and then they drop a complex 15% off discount bomb on the desk. Which, let's be honest, happens every single day.
Exactly. And to process that late coupon, the advisor has to go back into the software, back out the closed invoice, manually recalculate the labor, figure out which parts are eligible for the discount versus which are strictly retail, and reprint everything, all while the line behind them grows furious.
It creates a bottleneck for sure.
So how exactly is an advisor supposed to seamlessly delight the guest in those scenarios? Corporate training completely ignores the friction caused by the customers themselves, expecting the advisor to just absorb it all without missing a beat.
But see, you are missing the psychological mechanism behind brand protection here. Those highly difficult scenarios are exactly why rigorous corporate standards must exist.
How so?
Think about it. When you are dealing with a late pickup who is acting entitled, or a coupon shopper who is demonstrating a complete lack of situational awareness, the natural human reaction is frustration. It is annoyance. It is the overwhelming desire to snap back and point out that the store is closed.
Which is a completely valid human response. But why does corporate demand a script? Because human beings naturally mirror the emotions presented to them. If a customer comes in hot and the advisor mirrors that frustration, the situation instantly escalates. The rigorous corporate standards, the scripts, the training, the overarching threat of the CSI survey, they provide professional anchor. They force the advisor to swallow their frustration.
They force the advisor to act as a heat sink, absorbing the emotional energy without reflecting it back. If the advisor didn't have that corporate standard looming over them, a minor inconvenience like a late coupon could easily escalate into a screaming match in the lobby. The standard protects the multi-million-dollar brand from the natural emotional volatility of human interaction.
But the cost of acting as that heat sink is entirely borne by the worker's mental health and, vastly more importantly, their wallet.
Well, they are compensated for doing the job.
Because these extreme, unavoidable customer interactions inevitably generate friction, right? We have to look at how that friction is ultimately measured and penalized. The friction doesn't just disappear. It gets quantified, and that brings us to the actual mechanism of the CSI survey system.
The core metric of accountability.
You call it a quantifiable metric for executives. Based on how it operates on the ground, it is quite literally financial leverage. It is financial abuse.
I mean, abuse is an incredibly strong term for a basic quality assurance metric. Every major industry uses customer feedback mechanisms to track performance.
It is the accurate term when you explain exactly how the math and the compensation are structured. For the executives listening who might only look at the aggregate data on a spreadsheet, let's break down the actual mathematics of a customer service index score on the floor.
Okay, let's look at the math.
A huge chunk of an advisor's income is tied directly to these scores. We are talking about thousands of dollars a month easily, up to $10,000 or more a year, hinging on near-perfect surveys. And the scoring isn't a traditional grading scale where like a 90% is an A.
No, it is notoriously strict.
On a typical 10-point corporate scale, anything less than a perfect 10 or a completely satisfied is mathematically processed as a 0. It is a pass-fail binary. So one 8 out of 10 score doesn't just lower an average slightly, it acts as a mathematical anchor that can pull the entire month's average below the corporate payout threshold.
Which incentivizes the pursuit of perfection.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. It incentivizes begging. Let's look at the specific scenario detailed in the material. A technician in the back leaves a drain plug loose after a routine oil change.
A major mistake.
A huge mistake. The customer drives home and the leaking oil permanently stains their beautiful, expensive concrete driveway. The customer's furious, and rightfully so. They absolutely torch the CSI survey.
Understandably.
Right. But who takes the financial hit for that survey? The service advisor. The advisor didn't turn a single bolt. They didn't touch the drain plug. They didn't park the car in the driveway. Yet the corporate pay plan zeroes out the advisor's bonus. One bad survey contaminates 40 good ones, and the advisor loses thousands of dollars. How can you defend a mathematical system that financially penalizes an employee for the physical mistakes of a completely different department?
Because from an enterprise perspective, we have to ask where accountability should ultimately lie, if not with the primary point of contact.
With the person who made the mistake.
But the service advisor is not just a cashier. They're the project manager for that vehicle's repair. They are the face of the dealership. Tying their pay to the overarching CSI score is the strongest possible method corporate has to ensure the advisor actively quality checks the vehicle before delivery.
You can't be serious.
If the advisor knows their paycheck is on the line, they are highly incentivized to walk out to the lot, physically check the vehicle, make sure there are no greasy handprints on the steering wheel, and ensure the repair was completed properly. It creates a system of shared responsibility. Without that financial tie, the advisor has no intrinsic motivation to care about the technician's work quality. The system is deliberately designed to force cross-departmental accountability.
You are demanding a physical impossibility. Let's map out the spatial reality of your argument, because you are completely ignoring the physics of the building.
The physics?
Yes! Corporate strictly reprimands advisors if they are not at their desk, ready to instantly make eye contact and right service for the next walk-in. If an advisor wanders away from the desk, they are failing the front-end training protocol.
Well, someone has to watch the desk.
But simultaneously, as you just argued, corporate expects them to be out in the back lot, popping the hood, checking the oil level, and double-checking the technician's physical work to protect their CSI score. You are literally asking them to be in two places at the exact same time, at the counter dealing with customers and out in the lane acting as quality control for the mechanics.
It requires high-level time management, certainly. But it is part of managing the overall flow of the day. You triage the priorities based on the moment.
You cannot time manage the laws of physics. If you are an executive listening to this, I want you to honestly ask yourself, would you accept a pay structure where your yearly bonus is zeroed out because the janitor forgot to empty the boardroom trash?
That's not quite a one-to-one comparison.
Because that is exactly what you are asking your advisors to accept. The survey math doesn't care who made the mistake. The advisor is forced to act as the spokesperson for every systemic failure in the building. They have to smile, apologize, fix the technician's mistake, and then essentially beg the furious customer not to destroy their pay over it.
It's damage control.
When an employee's livelihood depends on begging for perfect scores in a high-pressure environment they do not control, that is not motivation, that is leverage. It's why there is a very direct challenge to executives on this exact point in the book. Don't just do a ride-along for a single day.
A ride-along does provide valuable visibility into the daily operations, though.
Anyone can survive a photo op ride-along for 4 hours and pretend the targets make sense. The real challenge is to sit in the advisor's chair for a full month, open to close. Handle the phones, the walk-ins, the comebacks, the coupon drops, and the screaming driveway experts.
It's an intense job.
Navigate the labor ops software while 3 people glare at you. Only then can an executive see the profound structural failure of punishing a front desk worker for a back shop reality.
I think it is important to synthesize where these arguments lead us, though. I will maintain that while the corporate framework clearly requires logistical adjustments at the store level, such as, investing in dedicated greeters or building better triage systems, standardizing expectations remains absolutely non-negotiable.
Even when the standard is fictional.
Without training videos, setting an ideal baseline, and without the mathematics of CSI surveys providing a unified metric of accountability, a national or global automotive brand would fracture into thousands of inconsistent, unmanageable experiences.
The system forces the advisor to take ownership of the entire client journey.
At their own personal expense.
But that overarching accountability is critical for maintaining a cohesive service enterprise.
The framework isn't inherently abusive. It is a macro-level tool applied to a micro-level environment. That application admittedly creates friction, but it is necessary friction to maintain quality control at scale.
And I will reiterate my stance, treating frontline workers as the emotional and financial shock absorbers for broken systems is unsustainable and fundamentally coercive. You cannot design a system that demands absolute perfection from an advisor, while mathematically ignoring the chaotic variables of technicians, delayed parts, and entitled customers.
The variables are definitely numerous.
Tying an advisor's livelihood, a massive percentage of their income, to an inherently flawed formula that punishes them for things they literally could not prevent is not accountability. It is a failure of leadership. The CSI system doesn't need better enforcement. It needs a fundamental worker-led overhaul that stops treating the service drive like a sanitized movie set and starts treating it like the triage center it actually is.
Well, we certainly find convergence on one undeniable point. There is a profound disconnect between the corporate boardroom and the service drive at 7:45 a.m. on a Monday.
Undoubtedly.
The executives designing the protocols and the advisors executing them are essentially operating in 2 vastly different realities.
Absolutely. Though we clearly remain divided on the solution, I see a need to tear down the punitive CSI mathematical structure entirely, while you see a need for better operational support beneath the existing metric.
Indeed. Automotive customer service operations are deeply complex ecosystems. There is a delicate, often precarious balance between corporate brand protection, technician efficiency, and the immense cognitive load placed on the service advisor to just hold it all together.
Which is exactly why executives, regional managers, and even everyday customers have much more to explore within the pages of your guide to customer service before making assumptions about the person standing on the other side of the counter.
We began this discussion by picturing that flawless corporate training video, the smiling actor, the pristine desk, the perfect lighting. But the book's subtitle is The Mirror Edition.
Right.
And perhaps that is the most vital takeaway for anyone designing these systems. When we look into the chaotic reflection of a real service lane, are we seeing a failure of the employee, or are we finally seeing the unrealistic expectations we've built for them?
Transform your business today. Pick up your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. Available on Amazon, paperback, and Kindle.
Thank you for listening to Discover You Radio's discussions. We'd like to invite you to research was spotlighted on this episode. And if they have a website, join their mailing list. Because listeners like you made it possible. Thank you for your support.